I'm Dr. Keita Franklin, and I'm the Executive Director of the Department of Veteran Affairs Suicide Prevention Program. Before I was at the VA, I spent over 3 years working for the Department of Defense in the same area, working to get after active duty suicides and reserve and guard. But I've spent over 20 years working with the military at the service level. I started my career working with the Air Force, actually, during 9/11. And from there, I switched to the Army and spent some time with the Marine Corps. So I've spent a considerable amount of time working in the area of behavioral health, and the last 6 years or so specifically with suicide. You know, I think the VA, we stood up our program for suicide prevention probably close to 12 years ago. And at the time, the thinking was that we needed a crisis line and we needed mental health providers. And if we had those two things, we could prevent suicide. And we have made remarkable efforts with that crisis line. It's now in one crisis line, but one capability, but it's in Canandaigua, New York, and we have additional assets in Atlanta, Georgia, and additional capabilities in Kansas. And the VA has also made significant investments to plus up the number of mental health providers inside our hospitals and in our vet centers and in our CBOCs. And one of the things we realize when we study the data for suicide prevention, we see about half of those veterans that end their life by suicide have a known mental health problem, and about half don't. So you begin to see where plussing up the veteran crisis line and plussing up our mental health capabilities really is not the full answer. And so the last couple of years, we've been pushing out this public health approach. And at the heart of that approach is partnerships. And this is why this agreement with the Independence Fund is so unique and important, because it allows us to work on suicide prevention outside the four walls of our hospital system. We, inside the VA, recognize that we can't prevent suicide alone, and we partner with a number of different nonprofits and VSOs, and Sarah Verado, the CEO of the Independence Fund, approached me, and we had a conversation about what the Independence Fund could do to help with suicide prevention. I think she had gotten to the point where she had experienced a couple herself firsthand and had sort of felt like she wanted to contribute and wanted to know what she could do. And so we were pleased for the offer, and her and I sat down and we discussed what type of capability we could engage in with a partnership, and from that came these reunions.
So there are other Hounds not here with us tonight, at least not in the physical sense. And it isn't because they couldn't rearrange something on their calendar or had other commitments. I'm speaking, of course, of Captain Jay Hamill, Lieutenant Dave Frazier, Staff Sergeant Kenneth Pugh, Staff Sergeant Kenneth Jenkins, Sergeant Charlie Matheny, Corporal Josh Jones, Corporal Alex Kalasa, Corporal Wendell Simmons, and Specialist Damian Montoya. I'm sure for those that knew them, they are always with you. I can tell you for me, these men are in my thoughts everywhere I go, as are the thoughts of our seriously wounded. And with that, I'd just like to draw your attention to an outstanding Hound who's here tonight, Shane Parsons. Let's give him a round of applause.
My name's Shane Jose Parsons. I'm from Fostoria, Ohio. The only unit I served under was 367 Hounds of Hell.
Hey Campbell, when we get back, can you go to take a
That day we got a call in to, check some buildings and stuff, do a routine check, go clear a couple houses, and then go back in and, get chow and then, regular routine. And I ended up taking one of my buddy's spots, and I just grabbed my gunner, Christopher Melendez. Hell of a soldier, he's an animal. We got up and got in there and got with our sergeant and said, hey, this is what we're doing. On our way back to go gas up and get some chow, the vehicle stopped. Didn't really acknowledge what was really going on until later on. I look at the corner of my eye and I see my best friend pick his left leg up and set it next to him like it's a freaking plastic doll off of like a mannequin. A horror movie, And I knew that's when it was pretty bad, and then later on I felt the pain going through my body, the burn and the pain I've never felt in my entire life. I just remember trying to open up the Humvee door. The door was so jacked up that it took a couple guys to rip the door off. The explosion was so powerful that I was told from one of my buddies that they could see it from the compound, from all the way on the other side. And I'd probably say that's probably about 5-10 miles away, all the way on the other side of the city. And I looked over and I said, why me? We only had a couple months left, and we would have been home, getting ready, get our, medals or whatever. You get your ceremony, you go through your combat, you go through war, you get your ticker tape parade and stuff, whatever. I didn't care. It was just nice that you come back home and then you'd have another chance to go back out. It was always the guys behind me, in front of me, on the left side of me. It was pretty much the ones I really cared about. I grew up without a father, so it was very rough growing up as an only child without a brother or sister. They were all I had. We'd fight and bicker, and I would do dumb shit, but no matter what, I was loyal. And, I would do anything for them. Never been really part of a family, and you find it's precious. You want to hold on to it, and you don't want to let it go. But I guess it came that time. You kind of double-edged sword. You're playing Russian roulette. I knew what I was signed up for. I knew what I was getting into, and I'd do it all over again. But I'm still fighting. I always will. Never give up. Never accept defeat. And keep fighting until I got nothing left.
My name is Mark Bertolini. I'm a retired Army colonel, and at the time of the deployment, I was the commander of the battalion. I was a lieutenant colonel, battalion commander, and had the high honor of commanding 367 Armor Hounds of Hell. We sustained a total of 9 casualties of various types throughout the deployment, 7 of which were a result of enemy contact, and that was a combination of improvised explosive devices, which at that time were very sophisticated, referred to as explosively formed penetrators, mostly high-end stuff that was coming over the border from Iran. We also lost soldiers to sniper fire. Those were the principal two ways that we had losses from combat losses. We also had one soldier who died of natural causes. Believe it or not, these things happen. He had a heart attack while he was standing guard. It was an undiagnosed illness. And then we actually did have a suicide while we were downrange as well. So a total of 9 soldiers, 7 to enemy contact.
And how many soldiers have you lost since then?
So we are about to double the combat losses. So we're looking at 15 soldiers.
The area of research as it applies to suicide prevention is critically important, and in part it's because we use research to drive interventions. And over the years I've seen with the research that there's been quite a bit of research on things like clinical trials and research that we do with veterans once they're in our hospital system, and that is very, very important and must continue. But equally so, I think in the last good number of years we've been realizing through the research the importance of peer support. And there's also, outside of the veteran space, a lot of research on social support. And this is, I think, the biggest part of the research that our partnership with the Independence Fund is trying to get after, because we are quite concerned about veterans that might be isolated and that might feel like they're a burden on themselves, or that they don't have connection to a strong mission or a purpose. And we see that as a high risk factor for suicide, and it's in the research, and this capability is really aimed at trying to buffer against that, or bring a protective factor, if you will, against that risk. And I think just particularly with the veteran population, peer support is so important. And I appreciate the fact that these retreats are looking to get after that issue.
Battalion. The Spartan Pledge. Spartan Pledge. I will not take my own life.
I will not take my own life.
By my own hand.
By my own hand.
Until I talk to my battle buddy first.
Until I talk to my battle buddy first.
My mission.
My mission.
Is to find a mission.
To find a mission.
To support my warfighter family.
Support my warfighter family.
That's it.
That's it.
We should all feel blessed to know that we're part of a team with literally hundreds of battle buddies who are always there to support us. No matter how hard the road ahead or how heavy the load, we share it together. And we owe it to our fallen to do just this, and also to live the best lives we can. The life we're blessed to have for as long as the fates will allow. Their legacy is our legacy. I firmly believe they want us to do it that way. So a final set of mission orders for the Old Hound Battalion. Be a battle buddy to whoever needs it. We have a great turnout this evening. But for every hound that made it here tonight, there are 10 more who didn't. If you're concerned about one of them, reach out. Let them know you're there. Don't allow them to seek a tragically permanent solution to a temporary problem. Be a battle buddy.
My name is Ildefonso Perez. Everybody knows me as Poncho. I remember going down to the green zone. We had to go in and clear funds that we had that were like FOO and TIF funds, basically monies that were allotted to us to conduct different things, pay interpreters, to fund a lot of the projects that we had going on, and we had to go and do these regular runs, and those streets were dangerous. They were, ridden with bombs, and I remember I was supposed to be going on the second truck, taking the position of one of the sergeants first class. I was a newly pinned staff sergeant. I just went to the board. As a matter of fact, I don't even think that I pinned at that point yet. And our platoon sergeant first class Odom, he was a very, very strong-willed person that just didn't accept anything but your best. And he was a hard man to please. And for some reason, he wanted me to take over, and the battalion was worried about leaving such a young NCO in charge of this team that essentially had 3 sergeants first class on it, had a staff sergeant that had been for a very long time as well, and he wanted me in charge. And he said, I've been working with Perez. He would go smoke a cigarette, and he'd pull me off to the side, and he'd say, okay, so pop quiz. Now it's kind of like speed, where he says, this is the situation you're in. You're going down this street. You encounter these circumstances. What do you do? And I would blurt out an answer, and he'd say, stop. You need to think about what you're doing. And then he would add on another obstacle, one more, until I was wargaming all of this stuff in my head, and he was confident with the level that I had reached to, and he wanted me there for that reason. That's why he didn't want anybody else. So I went, and I was going to take over this truck. Sergeant First Class Hunt was going to, he was going to go on leave, and at that time it was just the communications mishap where they said, hey, you're going to be taking the truck, and then I was usually riding in the 3 truck, and the gunner, I was usually the gunner. The person that was filling in for me was having issues with the 50 cal. They asked for my help and everything else, and then finally I asked, well, where do you want me to go? And they said, just stay in the 3 truck right now, and continue working on the 50 so that we can get out of the gate on time, because we're not gonna miss our time. So I stayed there, and we went out on the gate, or out of the gate. We went to the green zone, and while we were going down, we encountered an EFP on this big road, and it was hidden behind a concrete wall, and the thing shot through it like, you know, a hot knife through butter, and it sawed in half one of my buddies, Charles Matheny, and he was one of my really good friends. We already served a tour together, you know, before that, and he was like our mechanic. He was on this MIT team, and we, you know, pulled alongside, started to help. The medic kicked out, and everything was going on. We're trying to get the 9 line up, so we were having comms issues. So we drove our vehicle to a you know, a high point on the road, and we were able to get comms. And I remember looking around or getting my 9 line out of my pocket. It was in my wallet. It was a little small laminated copy, and I gave it to my TC and my truck commander. I said, "Here you go," you know, because he couldn't find his. 'Cause, I mean, everybody's just, you know, in all kinds of different directions. I gave it to him. He called up the 9 line, and I'm looking around, and you know, I noticed certain things that I didn't know how else to be but frustrated. So, you know, I was like, like that vehicle over there, I could see that gunner's looking at, you know, the shiny object of that vehicle that's hit instead of pulling security. And I was upset. You know, I didn't know how to take it, because now you're compromising the security of everybody else. And for me, it was, let's do what we have to do to get this person out of here. And that's, you know, now we're in a reaction to battle drill. And, you know, there were 3 casualties in that vehicle. The TC, Sergeant First Class Hunt, he took some shrapnel really close to the temple. The EFP bounced around the thing, chopped off the legs, basically, almost. They were dangling by like a ligament for the gunner. The TC had a, you know, his elbow was just demolished, his arm, all the bones in that was messed up. But they were working on the gunner, you know, because that was the most life-threatening injury. And when I said that, I said, how can't people do what they need to do? And, you know, my TC, you know, he says, dude, that was Charlie, you know. And he was upset, rightly so, because my comment came out of frustration. But it was difficult for me, especially later on, to realize, how can I not take that second? How can I be so uncompassionate, that just inhuman, where I can shut off those emotions for that? People shouldn't be able to do that. And I beat myself up about it for a very long time. And I can remember all of the details going back to the fob. And, you know, we finally got back, and, you know, the Humvee, we got it back there, and we're like, you know, ground guiding. We didn't have headgear on. And we're getting yelled at for, hey, where's your headgear? Where's this? And people didn't know, you know, we were just frustrated. We lashed out and said, you know, do you know what we just went through? You know, leave us alone. And, you know, it was a higher ranking individual, and they're like, hey, look, this is what happened. And we're power washing all of the blood out of the, you know, the vehicle and everything. And to deal with all of that, and, you know, kind of try to process that. And later on, I mean, they got really emphasized on the investigative process. They called it a 15-6. And I remember them coming in and interviewing us, and it seemed like they were directing it. I mean, not seemed, they were doing it. They said, so what could your platoon sergeant, Sergeant First Class Odom, what could he have done differently in order to prevent this? And it seemed like they were trying to assign blame, when there's nothing that you could do about these situations. And all you could do is try to blame yourself and say, what could I have done? If I was in that vehicle, would I have changed something up? Would I have gone a little further to the left? Maybe I could have prevented it. And it's those maybes and everything that really haunts you. And you know, to this day, it took this conference that I came to, and you know, I realized I need to get a hold of Charlie's mom, and I need to explain that to her. And I have to be ready. I have to be prepared, you know, to tell her, hey, look, I'm going to tell you a story, about what happened with your son, which I'm sure you've heard several times, but this was the view from my foxhole. And these were some of the thoughts that went through my head and some of the things that I did and said. And I hope that you know that I didn't mean them in this manner, but I need to unburden myself and let you know, and just hope that one day in your heart you can find it in your heart to forgive me. So it's going to take some strong will, but that's what it's going to be. It's about closure. So I'm ready to do that.
We've heard that this is actually Danny's group,
Yep.
not the Colonel's group. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I don't know if it's necessarily my group, but they are my family. They know that I care. My name is Danny O'Neill. I was a squad leader with 367 Armor, 4th Infantry Division. I deployed with my unit, the Hounds of Hell, to Sadr City, Iraq in December of 2005. My role with Operation Resiliency is to help facilitate getting the guys together, identifying people who are at risk for suicide, and helping heal the wounds that we incurred together during combat. My hope for Operation Resiliency is a couple of things. Number one, I hope that we will directly change the way we deal with mental health, not just with veterans, but with all people. And that we don't just look for a prescription or pharmaceutical answer, but a holistic one, where we can heal with those we suffer the most trauma with. I'm not really sure what my expectations were, but whatever they were, I'm sure they have been far exceeded. The healthcare model that we're using is failing, and we know that because we have the suicides. And I believe that these men here are the tip of the spear in changing how we deal with that. I couldn't be more proud to be a part of it.